Okay, well, welcome to EDUC 2400. This course is called School, Society, and Diversity. I tend to refer to it as School, Society, and Social Differences, and you will soon know the reason why as we dig into our class. So this is an undergraduate course, and this is actually an online asynchronous course. So online, meaning that we don't meet in our beautiful on-campus building, but we do meet online through campus digitally, and asynchronous, meaning that you and I don't have to be online at the same time. Okay, so that's a little different from the sections of this course, which I teach face-to-face in our beautiful education building. And I do try to do everything possible to make sure that the online course is getting just as much attention and interaction as the face-to-face. We do have some advantages and disadvantages for both. When it's in the face-to-face, I get to see your beautiful faces in person. I get to be able to read your body language a little bit better. And then the other thing that we are able to do is we're able to do more kind of experiential activities where we're using our bodies to explore and learn things. Like we play different games and that. So I tried to make sure that I adapt all of those things to online, because one of the wonderful advantages of online is that many of you who are not able to be in Cedar City full time at SUU, you are able to be part of our learning community as well. And that is only possible because you're coming to us online. So that is certainly an advantage as well. So it's two sides with both. And regardless, I'm so happy that you are in this course, and I'm excited to be able to get to know you. This week, for week one, you will be posting a little bit about you to the intro forum discussion board for our name stories, where you will be sharing your name, your pronouns, and a little bit about you. So sometimes people will say, well, I don't have a name story, I just have my name. No, everybody has a name story. You have a name, and hence there is a story behind how you got it. Sometimes you might have to dig into it and ask some people, but as you'll see with my name story, my mom loved watching soap operas. I am her oldest child of 7, and she used to watch a lot of soap operas. She was very young when she had me. She was 16 when she was pregnant and had just turned 17 when I was born. So she had a lot of time on her hands with me being the oldest child, and she watched soap operas. So her favorite soap opera character was a lady named Brenda on a soap opera. So that's how I got my name. And my middle name is Gail, which is the feminine version of my grandfather's name, Gail. So we always shared that bond together. So that's a little bit about my name story. And I'll also tell you that you should know right up front that I am coming to you from the American Deep South, so deep in Alabama, in fact, that if you drive just a little bit further from my house, if you drive about 20 minutes, you will be in the Gulf of Mexico, because you literally run out of territory. There's no more real estate. So you'll be in the Gulf of Mexico. So that's the Deep South. And part of being for so many years in the Deep South is that I am very used to interacting with people in terms of the way that we show respect in the South is that we will often refer to people as ma'am, sir, Mr., Miss, or by their titles such as doctor, and so on. So you'll see in the syllabus, and as we get into the modules, you'll see that I talk a lot about what I want to be called and how I will show respect to you. So please do not be offended if I call you, for example, if your pronouns are he, him. Don't be afraid, be offended, please, if I call you Mr. Joseph, because that's how it would be done in the Deep South. Excuse me. And if your name is Kayla and you go by pronouns she, her, then I might call you Miss Kayla. So please don't be offended. That is my way of expressing to you how immensely precious and valuable you are as a human being. That when I think about you, I think about Martin Buber. He was a very famous Jewish philosopher, and he talked about how there's often conflict between individuals and groups, and that when there is conflict between an individual and another individual, sometimes the people forget that the person that they're talking to should be a thou, that they are very precious and infinitely valuable, full of gifts, talents, and experiences, and should never be treated with any kind of carelessness or harmful way. So I definitely know that you each are very amazing human beings who come to our class full. You have lots of gifts and talents, no matter where you came from, what your background is, what your identities are. You come to us full of talents, gifts, and experiences. So I want to be able to treat you in an I, thou way. And sometimes when people slip and they forget that the person they're interacting with, as Martin Buber talked about, they will slip into the I, it relationship where they're treating the other person as if they don't matter, as if they're simply a means to an end. I'm too busy for you, go away, whatever. That would be treating someone in an I, it relationship rather than an I, thou, and communicating like, oh, okay, you need something. I was busy here, but let me give you a few minutes of my time and make sure that I'm respecting you. So that is my goal, that I will treat you in an I, thou relationship, and that you will also treat me in an I, thou relationship, and we will treat each other in an I, thou relationship. And sometimes, we get stressed, we misunderstand things, which is very easy to have happen online. And then we might slip into an I, it. If that happens, I definitely want to apologize and, try to do what I can to make things right with you. And so please let me know. I don't, mean to be offensive, and I certainly am not trying to offend anyone by calling you sir or ma'am. That's just what I've been socialized to do. And having spent a lot of my adult life in the Deep South, I'm used to that, and it feels comfortable for me. For example, if my big boss, his name is Sean, I would never feel comfortable just calling him Sean. And I certainly wouldn't say, hey, Sean, because we don't roll like that. I'm the employee, he's my big boss. I don't know him very well, so my comfort level would be to call him either Mr. Sean or Dr. Christensen or Dr. Sean, something like that. So that's what I'm comfortable with. Excuse me. Whatever you're comfortable with. I don't mind being called Brenda, but I do want you, and this is all in our module, I do want you to think about, before you address me as Brenda, think about our class is about school, society, and social differences. And oftentimes, gender is a way that people are treated differently in inequitable ways. And we have a lot of research showing that women professors are often called Brenda, Sue, Julie, while the men professors are often called Dr. Brown, Dr. Stimson, Dr. Hayes, and they are not called by their first name. So my mom gave me my name. I like my name. When I was little, I wanted to change it to Sharon, but I'm okay with Brenda. So I don't mind being called Brenda, but I do want you to think through, are you calling your other professors, especially the ones that are male, are they called by their first names or just Miss or Ma'am? And I most certainly don't respond, not in person and not via email or any kind of communication, to hey. I know my children are adults now, young adults, and they have this habit of texting me and saying, hey, can you send me this or whatever? I do not respond to hey. So if your email or your text or your call or your communication in some way begins with hey, um, I will not respond. I will delete it. I will ignore it. I will definitely not respond. So if you don't hear from me, I generally try to be really quick about that I thou relationship. I don't want you to be frustrated. If I don't respond to you within 24 to 48 hours, it probably is one of two things. Either I ignored it because it starts with something like, hey, or it's very disrespectful. Or the second thing is maybe I didn't see it. So feel free to, reach out again if 48 hours has passed. That's really odd for me to not respond fairly soon, even though I do get a lot of emails and communication every day. I do try to stay on top of that, and I tend to address any communication early in the morning each day or in the afternoon. And so I try not to spend all of my time just simply answering correspondence. But I don't want you to be frustrated or stopped, that you can't progress further because you need something from me. I don't want to hold back your learning. I want to be supportive of you and do everything that I can to help you be successful. So this is a partnership. And if you will help me to know how I can best help you, then, we will be able to all successfully complete this learning journey together and find joy in it. Because there should be joy. I firmly believe that learning should be joyful. It can be very painful, don't get me wrong. It's not that there isn't some pain and sweat, but I see that it more like being an athlete. They often will say things like no pain, no gain. Being from Alabama, sports are a big thing, particularly college sports. Our oldest daughter graduated from the University of Alabama, so we're all about the roll tide. And so it's very common to see people just out there, even it's super humid, super hot, they are working and they're working and it's hard and it hurts and it's painful, but they love it because it's part of the improvement process. And you and I, we are about school, society, and social differences. And I am hugely passionate about this topic because, first of all, I love school teachers. I wanted to be a teacher from the time that I was very small. I used to play school with my younger brothers and sisters, and they would call me Bossy Brenda because at the time I thought that teachers had to be bossy. I didn't know about how to be a warm demander. So, unfortunately, my siblings got some of my early teaching and it wasn't very good. But I always wanted to be a teacher, and teachers work very hard. We live in and work in dangerous times. it's always been dangerous. And I don't just mean about guns in schools, although that certainly is an issue. But it's always, there's a lot of mental health issues, and just a lot of human beings who are suffering and have a lot of trauma, and that trauma often shows up in classrooms and even amongst teachers. So society is having all of these issues and challenges and opportunities, right? It's not all bad, but so in society, whatever's happening for good or ill in society will then be reflected in our public schools. Hence, you have schools and society. And then that other factor of social differences. Unfortunately, historically, that hasn't worked very well. Our public schools were established to kind of provide this equalizing so that we could have a republic. The great experiment, think about George Washington and John Adams and Thomas Jefferson, our first former presidents, and how they and the women around them, don't forget John Adams' wife, for example, she was very, very involved in the colonial period and the formation of the government. So we had founding fathers, but we also had founding mothers. You have to hear about the mothers. But anyway, the idea of schools, as Thomas Jefferson thought about it, as Horace Mann thought about it, was that it was supposed to be this great equalizer. So you have people coming with different opportunities, different backgrounds, different access to tutors and resources. And so if you're going to have a republic, you needed informed citizens. And so public schools actually started out as the common schooling movement, and they were supposed to be the great equalizer so that all citizens would have an equal opportunity to participate in this republic that we call the United States of America. And so it was a wonderful, great experiment. And the founding fathers and mothers looked very carefully at a lot of different social organizations and political systems. And there was no history of this kind of a representative republic, democratic system being successful over a long period of time in Europe and Western civilization. So in the Iroquois and the so-called five civilized nations, there's quite a few examples of democratic systems working very well. But the founding fathers and mothers being very, their traditions were coming from Western European civilization, Greek, and so on. They weren't aware of and did not know about a lot of the indigenous forms of government that were already in existence in what became the United States. They had been in existence and changing and growing long before the Plymouth Rock or Christopher Columbus. So, but not Thomas Jefferson, George Washington, our first president of the United States, he was actually known as Town Destroyer. So he did not take time to learn about what the indigenous nations, how they organized their communities. In fact, the idea was that they were in the way and their land was needed, and so and taken. So that they didn't look into that source. But you and I know that it's there, and now we can look at it. Being educators, we want to be lifelong learners. We're hungry to learn. Learning is exciting. We should spend our whole life learning. If I turned off the background in my camera, you would see that there are books all over in here. And I have loved books ever since I learned how to read in the first grade. And I was thrilled to learn how to read. And my second and third graders became such avid readers that people would say, "Did you brainwash them? They are asking for books for their birthdays, for their mitzvah, bar mitzvahs. They are asking for the books for their quinceañeras. They are asking for books for all of the holidays, and anytime they can earn some money and buy some books, they want books. So did you brainwash them?" But no, I did not. We just loved, as we were exploring in our class in second and third grade, and then when I taught a K-1 split, we were just exploring the power of literacy. It's so beautiful, so powerful, so dangerous, because you don't know what people are going to think about and discover with the power of an education, right? And so education is very powerful. You can teach people that they don't matter. With schooling, you can teach them that they don't belong, that they don't deserve. But you can also use teaching and learning to open whole new worlds. I came from a very working class background. My parents didn't graduate from high school. We were very poor. Nobody I knew graduated from high school, but other people opened those doors for me, and they said, "That young lady has some talents. She should go to school." So even though I didn't know that, the other people did, and they encouraged me. And even when I got to the university, and I just kind of sleptwalked through my undergraduate, I didn't really know the power of education yet. And so then when I got to college, I had, or my master's degree, my first master's degree, I had this incredible professor who would not accept less than my best. He was a warm demander. He cared about me, and he would say, "Brenda, you're burning the candle on both ends and in the middle, but this is not your best work." So he was a warm demander. And I knew he cared about me, and I knew that he had high expectations to me, and I rose to the challenge. And that's what I want to do for you as well. I want to be a warm demander. And that was when I really opened up and I saw the power of education and how beautiful and joyous, but also difficult it can be. You know, when I was in graduate school, my first master's degree, my doctorate took me a long time because I had little kids while I was working, and I was teaching school while I was working on my doctorate. And then I did my second master's degree. And so there were times when, we were literally just eating potatoes. And I was like, I don't have any money for my kids. I don't have this or that. And my house, that floor could in the kitchen could be scrubbed another time, but I just had to make some decisions. I had to be very disciplined. I had to be very dedicated, and other people did not think that I could do it, because here you had somebody who came from a very working class background and somebody who was still very poor. When I started teaching school, it was a big step up for me, because I went from making about $7,000 or $8,000 a year to my first year of teaching, I earned $23,000, and I thought I was rolling in cash. So obviously I wasn't, but for me, that was a big thing in the early 90s when I was able to make 23,000 that first year. So then when I went on to graduate school, I was still working. I was hustling on the side, delivering newspapers. I was still teaching school, and I was studying in graduate school. And I had 6 of my own children who were under the age of 12. So I had 6 children under the age of 12, and 5 of them were born from between 1991 and 1997. So they were very close in age. And so people didn't think I would make it. They were like, this girl is not graduate quality. She is too busy. But I did make it because I loved it, and the power of learning grabbed me. And you can do it too. I know you can. In fact, you're going to do better than I did because you are awake and knowing about the power of it now as an undergraduate. It took me until graduate school to figure it out. So here you are, and you are going to go much farther, much faster than I did. And I'm so grateful for that because we need wonderful teachers in our school. So that said, let's look at our syllabus here so I can share with you a little bit about it. I'm going to share my screen with you and talk you through a couple of things on the syllabus. Okay, so just following up on what we were talking about here, here you see something, a little quote from one of the characters. I love literature, I love poetry, I love the humanities, I love the arts, I love theater, anything that brings in the human experience where it's like the characters in the books are talking about their experiences, but they're also talking about the human condition, right? And so as a teacher, we can draw from all these multiple disciplines. Science. Did you know that science and math are very creative? Sometimes people have the mistaken idea that math is just simply about algorithms and numbers. Oh no, that's a very diverse, rich background, and it takes a lot of creativity, not only to learn to use mathematics as a tool, but also the way it emerged and what it can do. It's not just 1 + 1 = 2. That's a very technocratic sort of way of looking at it. But how even the zero emerged, exciting, beautiful, rich, not just in Western civilization. You have to go very back, far back in history to look at that. Our nation, United States of America, so we don't call it America because America is actually Canada, it's actually Mexico, it's actually Nicaragua, it's actually Argentina, so all of those are America. You have North America and Central America and South America, but they're all America. So when we talk about the United States of America, we're actually using the wrong term. We have to use the United States of America, okay? Because, America is all of those things. So, we have to be careful with our language, and we can understand that Western civilization is beautiful and wonderful and rich. That's where we got Michelangelo. That's where we got Leonardo da Vinci. And, so the Greeks have a lot to do. Ancient Greece has a lot to do with how we understand democracy today. And democracy was not always considered a good thing. In fact, it was considered very bad. So you might want to learn about that, right? There's so many things to learn about. There's just no time to be doing nothing, right? Because there's so much to learn. And the more that you learn, the more that you want to learn. And you see that you just started learning. So it's still just like a snowball. So Western civilization is a wonderful, rich source of learning. Here at SUU, we have like the Shakespeare Festival, which thrills me. But did you know that it wasn't just Europeans that had theater and the arts and music and dance? Oh no, that is very ancient. And Western civilization did not, they're not the originators of that. So mathematics, you need to go look in India. You need to go look in the long history of China, so in the Middle East, what we call the Middle East now. So all of these things, there's many, many rich traditions that we often don't hear about. And since we don't know about them, we don't hear about them, we don't realize that they're exciting to look into. And so you think about dance, we often think about ballet and associate with France. Oh no, you need to start looking in many, many other much older nations. The United States is pretty much of a baby. You know, it's not very old as you compare it to many of the nation states and civilizations around the world. So we tend to think mostly very ethnocentrically in the United States. We think about us, our society, and our traditions and our history. And we don't always think about it in relation to world history and understand that we are actually fairly new in the world order. The oceans around us kept us during that critical colonial time from a lot of interference from other nation states. And we were able to kind of get going. And then we had, 100 years of fighting with indigenous peoples and westward movement, where a lot of indigenous peoples were actually moving eastward, and some people were being carried westward because they were enslaved as chattel and they didn't have a choice about it. So do you see that it's much more complex than that? And as a teacher, you are sharing and helping rising generations to take their place in society and in the world. And your job is to help them to develop the skills and talents and gifts that they already bring to you. They come to you full. Just like you come to me full, they come to you full too. And so that is your job, to prepare them to be strong citizens, to be able to participate in the world and in their communities and their families and in their own lives as independent, capable learners. So you have to be an independent learner to be able to foster that in your students. So I have to continue to be an independent learner as well if I expect that from you. So that's where we're kind of looking at this idea here of Seth in the novel Beloved says, nothing more dangerous than a school teacher. And so we'll explore what Seth meant by that. Why are school teachers so dangerous? They can be dangerous in a powerful, beautiful way, or they can be dangerous in a very bad way as they're measuring you and telling you that on your assessments and that you do not measure up. That can be very harmful, and children can carry that with them for the rest of their lives. So school teacher beat Sixo anyway to show him that definitions belong to the definers, not the defined. The teacher says so and not the student. Well, that's not really an I-thou relationship, right? I'm here to learn with and from you, and you are here to learn with and from me and from each other. We are together, okay? And then this is a painting that one of my colleagues from University of Massachusetts, she created this about hope. And I think it's always important that as difficult as the world can be and feel, there's always hope, right? There's always something that we can do. We might not be able to change the world, but there is something in our sphere of influence that we can do. Teachers are very powerful and they often don't know their power. Okay. So in John Dewey, you probably heard of him. He says, if we teach today's students as we taught yesterday's, the way we were taught, we rob them of tomorrow because things are changing. Some things do stay the same, but not exactly the same. So, we have to keep learning and growing. Okay. So you will watch a little video about what being in a flipped classroom means, okay? And then you will look at some things about my name and your name, And I do prefer to be contacted via the Canvas email. I have to log in somewhere else to check my university email. So I'll see it quicker if you email me on Canvas. Also, you feel free. Sometimes an email is not quick enough and you need to call or text me. Just make sure that you say who you are, because I do get a lot of texts and calls. Okay. And we're going to make sure you look at that land acknowledgement. That's super important for us in Utah and wherever you are. If you're not in Utah, find out what land you're sitting on. In Mobile, Alabama, the Mobile Indians no longer, that nation no longer is alive. However, the name Alabama was actually an indigenous nation. So find out, if you're not in Utah, we know that Utah does come from an indigenous background. And for us in Cedar City, we are sitting on the Southern Paiutes traditional homeland. So where's yours? The Chickasaw are still a vibrant community in Mobile, Alabama. So as well as in Arkansas and Texas, because they were moved out of the southeast part of the United States and pushed west. So find out what if you're not in Utah, think about that. Okay, and this is the textbook that we're going to be using, but you will not have a hard copy of it. Although you could have a paper copy of it if you wanted it, but you don't actually need one. You will be doing all of it on our McGraw-Hill Connect website, which I'll show you when we look at our Canvas page. Okay, so you should expect at least 9 hours of work in this course. We have a practicum component and we have our regular lecture component of it. So at least 9 hours. Plan on that so you aren't frustrated. This is not a methods course. Okay, the first thing that we're going to learn about is we're going to say, start with the learner, not the lesson plan. I have to start with you. I know what the state requires. I know that you have to pass the PPAT at some point in your career before you enter the classroom. So I know that, but I also have to know you to be able to pick the right methods to get you where you and I need you to be a successful teacher. Okay, so think about that. And then this is really important. Read this over here. It is super important. This class is not going to be, it's all about equal sides, both and. No, this class is about equity, okay? It's not about pretending that the playing field is already level. The educational pipeline in the United States from K through 16 is leaking. Students are being pushed out regularly. And we know who's getting pushed out because we look at statistics of graduation, statistics of who's in the gifted and honors programs. We look at statistics of discipline, who's being expelled, and so on. And we know that those kind of stats, even though minoritized learners are really in some school districts already, even in Utah, in the northern part of Utah, we have several school districts that are already minority majority. Okay, and that's true across the United States. So those are the learners that are more often kicked out. So in Alabama, you have, for example, Black students make up about 8% of the total public school population, and they end up being, I think, if I'm remembering correctly, it's a huge percentage. It's like over 50% of the expulsions are Black students. So if they only make up a small amount of the whole public school population in the whole state, how come they're a big part of the expulsion category. Are they just naughtier than the other kids? No, kids are kids. Kids will be naughty, especially if the adults around them aren't warm demanders who set good boundaries and are caring and warm, but they're authoritative, not authoritarian. There's a difference between those. Warm demanders. Okay, so something's going on there. So in our class, we are interested in providing a quality education for all the learners, not just for some of the learners. So our educational pipeline is pushing out whole groups of students, and that's based on all these social differences. So for you and I, we are not interested in maintaining that leaking pipeline. We want to stop the leaks. In my classroom, I don't want any leaks. All of my students, I want them to move forward. And I know you do too. So that's why it's about equity. We are not okay with losing the kids that are minoritized. So that means we have to address the leaking educational pipeline. So that's what this statement here means. Now, especially at the beginning of the semester, you might definitely feel threatened. You might feel overwhelmed. You might think, oh, my teacher's going to hate me. I'm going to make a mistake. I'm going to say something wrong. Let that go. Let that go. I know you don't know me very well and it's hard to trust me yet, but I promise you, this is not my first rodeo. And I know very well, even without having seen your faces yet or read all of your information, get to know you sheets yet, that each of you come to me full. And how are you going to learn if you aren't taking risks and making mistakes? That's how everybody learns. I still make mistakes. So we can't let making mistakes hold us back. Okay, so I'm going to be there for you. If you do your part and you do everything you can in your at least 9 hours of work in this course, you're going to get out of this course what you put into it. If you put a little bit in, you get a little bit out. If you put a lot in, you're going to get a lot out. Okay, so try not to be overly anxious. Give it a little bit of time, and just like with an athlete, you're going to see that pretty soon you're going to start developing these skills. Okay, and the learning curve won't stay so high. Okay, so I'll let you read through all of this on your own. These are very important, but you're all capable readers and you need to know this. So you read through that on your own. I'm not going to go through that one by one with you. You can follow, read all of this. There's likely to be a syllabus quiz next week, so make sure that you do read this carefully, okay? So fair warning, this is a lot of hard work in this class. It's an important class. It's the one class that you will have in your program about social differences, society, and schools. That relationship is everything about being an exemplary dreamkeeper teacher, okay? So if you ever have the opportunity, and some scholars do not, which is fine, but while you're an undergraduate, your courses cost a little less. And so that's one thing to think about, to take advantage of the opportunities that you have while you are an undergraduate. If it were me, I would take courses in sociology, in social psychology. Those are very helpful. Ethnic studies, those are very good. History, as long as it's not just white mainstream history, if it includes others too. Those are things to think about. But even if you aren't able to do that, not to worry. We're independent learners. The best learning that scholars do is always self-directed. I'm hungry. I want to learn. I want to know. So I can direct my own learning the best rather than what somebody else says. So consider that. You don't have to take a course on everything. You have the internet, you have many tools that you can learn for yourself. Okay, so here's where your grades are going to come down. So I know that you're very concerned about this, which is understandable. Your commenced attendance, that's for federal reporting. That's got to be done. And it's due right this week. You're going to have a cultural experience. This needs to be done early too. So start thinking right now about what that would be. There's a list on Canvas of possible ideas, and we are very fortunate here in Southern Utah to have many events. There were so many during spring semester that we couldn't go to all of them. Our class divided up, some went to some and some went to the other because they were happening at the same time, and they were happening a lot. Now, I will be in Alabama for a lot of the summer. So I may not always know about what's happening in the community in Cedar City, and all of you may not be in Cedar City. So wherever you are there, check with me if it's not on the list of approved activities for that. Get started on that due soon, because it is coming due in June. Okay, that's something you can knock out fairly easily. The school practicum experience, we have to do that a little different in the summer because public schools tend to be closed in the summer. So we'll talk about that. Don't stress over that. I will make videos for you on that, and that will be due in July. We're going to get that started very early, but it doesn't have to be this week or next week. Okay, so don't stress. We're going to get there. I know what we need to do for that, and I'll help you make sure. This is super important, not to stress you out, but you must pass this assignment to be able to pass this course. If you fail this activity here, the school practicum assignment, you can't pass this class, okay? So we're going to work together, and I'm going to do everything in my part to make sure that you know how to do it and how to do it successfully, and learn a lot from it, and you do your part, we're good to go. Okay, so don't panic on that one. Preparation and participation in class. Now, this is critical, especially in an online asynchronous course. You don't turn in anything here. What I do at the end of the semester is I look at the people page on Canvas in our navigation column. I look up, I click people, and I can see each of you listed there. And I can see how many hours you have spent on Canvas. And I can even see when was the last time you logged in and were working on Canvas. So you remember I said that you need at least 9 hours a week here? Okay, I'm going to know that. So by week 3, by Sunday night on week 3, I should see that you have at least 27 hours already logged in. Okay, so I'm going to be looking for that throughout the 14 weeks. Did you put in about, and 9 is the minimum. You certainly can go above that, but you must reach 9 hours per week. And I highly recommend above 9, because the correlation between how many hours you spend on Canvas and what your course grade is, every semester, it's so similar. So if people put a little bit of time on Canvas, their grade tends to be low. If they put a lot of time on Canvas, their grade tends to be high. Now, I am a very busy person, even though my children are grown now, but I'm still very busy. So I tend to like to focus really hard. When I set up, first of all, I'm a planner. I have my planner here, and I line out what I've got to do today. And then I know what has to be done this week and this month. And then I focus. I say, okay, this morning I'm making a video. I'm going to be uninterrupted during that time, and I'm going to focus and work really hard on that and get it done. So that's called deep work. I work hard and deep and focus for these periods of time. Then I go out and I take a walk. I take a break, rest, walk around, get a snack if I want one. And then I focus again. So that's how I get a lot done in a shorter amount of time. So it is possible to have around 9 hours and still have a good grade. But you need to remember that the correlation between time on Canvas and your course grade, it tends to be about the same. Put a lot of time in, you tend to get a high grade. Put a little bit of it in, you tend to get a low grade. Okay, so keep that in mind. That's what that is. And then we'll have weekly discussion boards. This is our time together. So even though we're going to be online at different times, this is where we come together and become a really a community and learn from and with each other. So I'll have more to say about that. Your own discussion post should be posted no later than Wednesday night at 11:59. You can always post earlier, but you cannot post later than that. And then you come back throughout the week to post your replies. 2 is the minimum. I will tell you, I am very big on going above and beyond. Teachers need to be above and beyond professional people. So if 2 is the bare minimum, and you do a really good job, you'll get almost full points. If you're above and beyond, then you're going to get full points because you worked really hard. And that's our time to share and learn from and with each other. Now, one thing to think about with these discussion boards is you are going to be talking about things that we read about in our textbook, as well as what's in the module. So you're going to be talking across those, and you're going to pick out themes that are across the readings and videos in the module and the textbook. Okay, so pick out 2 or 3 themes and then talk about, well, in the textbook, it talked about this. On the video, it said this, and here's my thoughts on that. So you're going to show that you really engage the materials for the week. Okay, and so you don't have to be fully done with all of the readings for the week by Wednesday night. You don't. But you should be far enough into it that you are able to say something intelligent by Wednesday, no later than Wednesday. Then on Thursday and Friday, you keep on reading and studying, then you come back to the discussion board and learn from somebody else. They posted. So now you've got your own learning. You're still keeping on reading. You're learning from your peers. So put in a reply. You know, writing is thinking. Writing is analysis. And so by engaging your peers after Wednesday, when you're replying, you're synthesizing what you're continuing to read and study. So then you come back again and you've got Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. You can do 2 more replies where by the time you get to Sunday night, everything's wrapped up. So 2 is the minimum of replies. 3 is above and beyond. And of course, you're welcome to do more than 3. But you should understand the process. Start on Monday with the materials. So by Wednesday, you're a good way into the materials and you can say something intelligent. Then you don't have to be done, but a good way in. By Thursday and Friday, you've gone further in the module. Now you can start replying to people. By Saturday and Sunday, you can do more replies. Do you see how you're kind of pacing yourself throughout the week? So by Sunday night, you've got everything done. Your assignments, you'll have readings that are due on Thursdays in our textbook. And then on Fridays, you'll have an assignment in our textbook, and you'll have an assessment on Saturdays in our textbook. And so if you stay up with all of the deadlines, there's no way by Sunday night that you won't have learned a lot. So think of deadlines as our friends, where you are moving along throughout the week. The research shows again and again that students and all kind of learners, including your learners, my learners, who are you, and your learners when you're in your own classroom, students do not learn and retain well. They think they do, but they do not when they're crashing and cramming stuff in. So guidelines and deadlines and pacing ourselves throughout the week will help us to retain and learn more, because we're not trying to do everything on Saturday and Sunday to get it in by Sunday night. No, that is not quality learning. So if you take your psychology courses and you think about how the brain works, we don't learn well by cramming. We learn by interacting. We have to have meaningful content, and then we process it and we think about it and we engage it, we use it, and we evaluate it. So we're doing a lot over time for that learning to stay with us. So do you see why cramming on Friday and Saturday, or even Saturday and Sunday, or just Sunday, are terrible ideas? Yeah, especially for a teacher. Your job is about facilitating others' learning. How are you going to be able to foster other people's learning if you don't even know how people learn, right? So you have to practice that yourself, how to be an effective, robust learner. Use your time, pace yourself throughout the week so that your mind is doing some of the work for you. When you pace yourself, your brain is working, even if, like, let's say you were working deep work on Tuesday and you were done with this class for the day, and then you went on a hike and you're thinking about the beautiful mountains, you're thinking about your dog, you're thinking about whatever. Well, in the back of your mind is percolating, because if you study psychology and you look at how the brain functions, you are only conscious of this little bit of what's happening in your brain. It's like the tip of the iceberg. So the rest of your brain is doing stuff, but you just aren't conscious of it. So you're letting it kind of percolate and you're thinking about other things, and you would be surprised. As a researcher, yeah, I can't tell you how many times this has happened to me. I'll be like stuck on a part, or something in my data, or writing something in my research, and I put it down, go for a walk. I'm thinking about something else. I'm thinking about my hiking boots. I'm thinking about, why my dog is pulling me, things like that. And all of a sudden, something very different from what my research is gives me an insight into what my research problem was, because my brain is busy in the background doing something else. And sometimes comparing and contrasting very different things will be very productive. Okay, so as teachers, we need to know how the brain works, because if we're going to foster learning, we have to know how we learn, and we have to do good learning ourselves to model that. So think about that. And we're going to have a professionalism dispositions rubric. This is different from number 4 up here. And I know they seem the same, but they're not. At the end of the semester, I have to evaluate you, each of you. I turn in one of these forms for you. So I wanted you to know what you're being evaluated on. And who can better evaluate you than you, right? So not everyone should be a teacher. And that is not to say that people who are not teachers are not good people. Sometimes it's just not a good match. I had a colleague when I was teaching 3rd grade, and I was on the teacher leadership team. And so I was teaching in my classroom in the morning, and my colleague took my class in the afternoon while I was working with the other teachers. And this young lady had gone straight through. She did her master's degree and graduated with her teaching license. I'm sorry, her bachelor's degree. She did her bachelor's degree first. and she got her teaching license, but she didn't teach. Then she went to her master's degree directly after finishing her bachelor's. So by the time she got into my classroom as a first and second year teacher, she had a bachelor's degree and a master's degree, but she had never been a teacher before. And she discovered that she didn't really like kids. Now, that's a problem if you are a teacher. So she's not a bad person. She just liked studying about kids. She liked talking about kids, reading about kids, writing about kids, but she didn't actually enjoy time with actual kids. So, not a bad person, but just to be aware that not everyone should be a good teacher. And some people don't have a good disposition for being a teacher. So we have to flag people that shouldn't be teachers. If you're not a problem solver, if you're not an independent learner, if you're not someone who can interact well with other people, you probably shouldn't be a teacher. And so I'm going to evaluate each of you at the end of this semester. You'll be evaluated again at other points in our teacher education program by other professors. So if you get 3 flags, you're going to be out. So when I fill this out, if I see something that I'm going to flag, I'll flag it. And they look at that recorded in your file. Then if another professor flags it, and now you got 2 flags on the same thing, now we're going to be looking at you. 3 flags, you're out. Okay. Not everyone should be a teacher. Okay. Nothing wrong with that. We need good teachers. So that's, you're going to do 3 of them yourself, and I will do the last one. And again, your textbook, we're going to have, you cannot pass this course without working hard in this textbook. This is 30% of your grade. So if you look at your textbook and your discussion board and your school practicum assignment, this course you must do well in, not to mention it's a required course. Okay, so think about that. And all of these other things are important. So you read them on your time, because I will ask you about them. I would like you to pay close attention here to page 15, self-care strategies. Sometimes people get very upset, very anxious, and they forget to treat other people in I thou because they themselves are not feeling well. So here are some strategies. We have many resources on campus as well for you. So let me know if you're struggling. If you tell me after the fact, I will virtually hug you and I will virtually cry with you, but you didn't let me know. And so, some students have gotten into really tough situations, and they had a track record of not being consistent in doing their coursework, and then something big happened, and it's like, look, you were already not being very professional. So, better luck. Try it when there's a time and a season for everything. So if this is not the time of the season, that's okay. Just reset, push that reset button. Don't dig yourself in further. Just start again. Things happen. My own professor told me on my first day of graduate school, I was rushing over to my university class for the first class in my first day in graduate school. And I had been doing parent-teacher conferences at the school. So I was rushing across the city to just whoosh, get in the door right on time. I came with no paper and my pencil. And my new professor, whom I did not know, raised his eyebrows at me and he said, "You came to graduate school with no paper and pencil?" And I had an excuse. I said, "I just came from parent-teacher conferences." He wasn't interested in that. He was a warm demander. He expected the best and preparation. And so I started out on kind of a shaky foot. And he told our whole class, that cohort that we started on that night, he said, "Look, this might sound harsh to you, but this is the reality. People are going to be born, people will die, and you will keep studying. And it was true. I know that's harsh, but it's very true. And so, that's something that you have to think about. You have to make decisions. Maybe something else can wait. Where is time being lost in your schedule for the day? Sometimes you have to make some hard decisions. I grew up in a house where my mom was a super, super particular cleanly housekeeper, but she was also a full-time mom at home. I have always worked. So sometimes I feel like my house isn't like hers, and I put myself down by that, about that. But I cannot be everything to everyone. And as long as it's sanitary, I'm not sweating it. So you have to make decisions like that in your life as well. Okay, so I'm going to stop sharing that screen with you, and just very quickly, I know I have been keeping you too long. I share with you, if I can, I really want to share with you some of our Canvas page. I may not be able to at this time. I'm looking at it, and I'm sure that, oh, here it is. Okay. All right. All right. I'm learning with technology. Okay. So here's our Canvas course. So the biggest places that here's our navigation column. The biggest places that you're going to be spending your time will be in modules. Okay. Come on, modules. And for this week, for week 1, there's a lot of things that you're going to be required to just view. So it looks like a ton of assignments, and you're like, man, we just started. I'm so freaked out. Please don't be, because a lot of them are very short. All you have to do is look at them. The videos, this one's only 7 minutes. A lot of them are shorter than that. Just glance through, what's available here for you. This one says view, this one says view, this one says view. So all you have to do is view them. Okay. Like a lot of times, my students will say, well, I don't know how to do this. I don't know how to do that. Well, okay, we're going to first put the learner first anyway, because you have to be able to get the right strategies. But then use your talents, and you have the internet. I did not have that until I was in college. The first time I sat down at a computer, I was in the 9th grade. So you probably grew up with computers. So use your skills and resources and things like this. Resources for teachers. This is a clearinghouse with lots of good practices, articles on English language acquisition. I know some of you are special education majors. Much of what is helpful in special education is going to be very helpful in school, society, and diversity. The reason that they don't put those together is because nobody wants anybody to think that the diverse abilities in special education is a medical model of something's wrong with you, something's wrong with my ears, something wrong with my eyes. No, it's just a diverse ability where maybe I have an aid to help me hear, or I know I need contacts and reading glasses to help me to see. But that's nothing, I function well anyway. So don't call me, quote, handicapped. It's diverse abilities. Okay. And so, and being different, socially different from what's considered the mainstream, that's not a medical model either of something's wrong with you. There's nothing wrong with me because I'm not a man. Okay. So there's nothing wrong with me you know, because I don't have a particular faith that many people in the community do. Okay. It's just something that's diverse, and society tends to differentially value those. So look and see, there's tons of good resources here and here. Oh, resources for teachers. Come back to that. Okay, so today, Monday, you're going to need to look at this day one stuff. Again, it's just looking at it. Mostly it's just looking at it. There's a short video on this one, and this is about the Mr., Miss, Mux. I usually say mix just because it reminds me of my Malcolm X tattoo with the MX. But a lot of people say it as Mux. I say mix, like you would call me Mix Brenda. And that's where it's not Mr. or Miss, but it's gender neutral. And so I really want you to look at that. That's really important that you look at that, why that is. Some people will say, I don't care about stuff like that. Well, I know a lot of people don't understand why that's important, because they might not know that human beings come in just the richest range of abilities, talents, sizes. And so even gender, you might not know this, but gender is not simply a binary of male, female. There's a lot of people that have always throughout history and right now who are born maybe with the genitalia of both. And so we have plenty of people born like that as well. So it's not male or female. There's always been a range of people that don't fit one or the other. So we'll talk about that a little bit more. And but that's just a little bit. I want you to start familiarizing yourself, and mostly so that you don't feel offended if I call you Mr. Joseph. Okay. I'm thinking about Mr. Joseph because I have recently read his get to know you information sheet. I've read Sarah's and I think Kayla's recently as well. I know there's more too. So so you have to read through all of those. Just view. They're not long. You just sit down, focus, deep work. You can knock this out very quickly. Again, view. You're going to be coming back to this module right here a lot because, you know, as our time goes by and we're busy doing different things, and you're like, oh, I got to turn in my cross-cultural experience. I was supposed to start it right away, but I didn't. Oops. Well, don't do that. Okay. But let's say that you forgot about it. And you're like, well, where's the instructions? Dr. Harris, where's the instructions? And then I know that you didn't look through the modules very well because it's right there, course requirements. It even says important, and all the instructions are right there. So these pages here, they do tell you about the assignment. And again, please do not be worried about this school practicum reflection and log, because it's going to be a little different for summer, and I will take you through that. If you do your part, there's no way that you can fail that, and you'll actually, I hope, have a lot of fun. So, and then here's our work that other work that has to be done this week before Sunday. Things like your name stories under this. So this will not open for you until these over here, this module and this module, are done. You have to have looked at all of those to be able to open this one. Okay, so if it's marked in green, you'll see it on your side. If it's not marked in green, I see it on my side, but you don't see it on your side. So always be sure that you read through Monday morning. I am a big believer. Get up, get strong, get going, and look at what's got to be done. I give you an overview, and then I try to make everything right there ready to go for you so that you have a one-stop shop. And if you're frustrated and you can't find something, let me know. Something doesn't open, but you do your part in trying to open, or everything's right where it should be all together in one place for you. So you do your part and I will try to do my part. I try to do that for you to make it very accessible so you wouldn't be upset or frustrated. Okay. So the other thing to think about is so each module has an overview, and then also do not forget, these are not required, but you can save some of these things too. If you download them and you save them, what is mine is yours. Okay, I'm sharing with you. So a lot of times these supplementary articles and resources, this is stuff here that we don't have time to cover, even though I know this seems like it's going to be a long course, a big course, but there's many things that we can't cover. This is like a buffet. If you went to a buffet and you're going to nibble on a little bit of everything, that our class is an introduction to a lot of things. For example, we will do one module on language differences from English. Now, I took a whole English as a second language endorsement, which was 30 graduate level course credits. So I can't pack 30 credits of graduate work into one undergraduate module, right? No. So you're just getting a little nibble of all of these things. And then with those little nibbles, then you being an independent learner, you can keep on learning and growing and expanding your knowledge on your own. The idea is that you're going to be an independent learner. I'm going to start you off and I'm going to be there to support you, but eventually you're going to be an independent of this, and you'll only like check in with me if you like have a question, or to tell me remind me how great you are. I love to hear how well students are doing as you move on. I'm very good about not forgetting students because you mean a lot to me and I value your time with me. So don't forget, like I was talking about deep work. You might be interested in what deep work is. People who are very successful do deep work. So you might want to look at that. Okay. So, well, I've got to go and get some breakfast, and I know you're ready to stand up too. Or maybe you have been standing while you've been watching this and taking notes. That's a good idea. I always try to stand more as well. So I am glad if you have been standing also while I've been talking. Okay, well, thank you so much for your time with me. And I am just so looking forward to this semester together. Okay, more soon.